Hey everybody, my name is Michael and I work for TUP, and for the past year with the New Hampshire Department of Education to produce a revamped iExplore and iReport. And in this video, I'm really excited to tell you about the new functionalities we have available to us in iReport. All right, so when you first go to the iReport, you will start at the Finder page, and really this is the starting point for any kind of analysis that you want to do. On this Finder page, what you'll find is a list here that will help you choose a specific school or district that you'd like to take a closer look at across all the different iReport pages. You can right away choose a school or a district that you already have in mind. You can scroll down the big list of schools or districts, or you can just type in one that you're interested in. So maybe that ends up being Concord District or Concord High School. So you can just search for it in that list. Or if you're not sure which school or district you want to choose, or you just want to reduce that list down a little bit, you can use all these other filters here to change the selections you have available to you. So for example, maybe we already know we would like to just look at districts. So in the entity type filter, I'll just select district and hit apply. Okay, you'll see that the view report button went away, and that's because A Crosby is not a district. So we'll have to make a selection here of just districts. And now you can see we only have those district values available to us. So let's go back to Concord. We'll select Concord. And now we have a view report we can choose from. We could have also chosen to reduce the list by town, by grade span, or even by year, but none of that is really mandatory. All we have to do is make sure we have a school or district selected, and when we're ready, we can hit View Report. Now, when you go and click on View Report, you will initially be sent to the Profile page, which is one of many pages that you can choose from in that school or district specific list of pages at the top. All right, now with all of these different pages, we have different charts and different sections of information that you can interact with via a hover or a click or something else. So in this page, for example, we can take our mouse and hover over portions of the population by race and ethnicity to see that this less than 10% means that the value is below 10% and it is blurred to protect student privacy. So hovering over certain points in charts that you'll see will produce this thing called a tooltip that can give you just a little bit more information about what you're hovering over. And that same thing exists in the donut chart of the student population breakdown below. Okay, now at the top right, you'll see one of the filters has persisted from the front page. And at any time throughout your whole iReport process, you can select a different school year you might be interested in. So if we select 2018 and 2019, for example, you can see all the data on the screen as well as all the other pages will change to that school year that you've selected. Okay. Now there's a lot of buttons up here that we'll talk about a little bit later in the video, but for now, let's go ahead and move over to the achievement page. So we'll just click on achievement and we'll just have to wait a second. And now we're looking at all the relevant indicators across time and different subgroups for the student achievement in the Concord district in 2018 to 2019. Now, just like in the profile page, throughout the student achievement page, you can hover over different data points to understand a little bit more about the information. Sometimes there isn't a tooltip if it's mostly on the screen, but other times like this, you'll be able to take a look at, the specific value or some kind of explanation about that data point. Something particular about the student achievement page is that we have these little arrows that you can actually find in other places in iReport. And these arrows basically represent a way to dive a little bit deeper into a specific data point. So for example, for Concord overall in 2018 to 2019, there was a 60% ELA proficiency. But if you click into this arrow, you'll open up a subgroup specific breakdown of ELA proficiency within the Concord district in the year that you've chosen. And you can see you have different values for example, the economically disadvantaged student group, for grade 5, grade 11, across the different genders. And of course, you can hover over, just like we saw before, to understand what some of these abbreviations mean. Okay. And functionality-wise, you can actually open up, any series of or any multiple of different flyout charts that you have available. You can keep them all open if you want, but just pay attention here to the sort of layering of all the different flyout charts. Okay, so each of the arrows, as we go down the page, will open up a chart in front of the arrows above it. So just be a little mindful of that. And if you end up having a chart cover a different chart, then it's probably because of the layering. For example, let's say we wanted to look at the science proficiency breakdown. We'd open that up, see the different subgroups, and maybe realize we want to take a look at those subgroups in the ELA proficiency section. If we click on this arrow without closing the science assessment proficiency, that's going to actually stay on the screen and cover up that assessment proficiency. So we'll just need to close out of that to take a look at the ELA proficiency menu, or the ELA proficiency subgroup flyout. All right, so there's a lot of ways to, change the level of detail or take a look at things at a more granular level. So one way is through these different flyouts. And another way that is actually accessible throughout iReport is this school list button. So maybe we want to take a look at the schools or a particular school in the Concord district and take a look at the student achievement. So we'll open that up, and why don't we take a look at Concord High School. All we have to do is click on Concord High School, and then we have to be sure to close the menu so it doesn't block the rest of the pages. And you'll see the data has updated to Concord High School. So it's very easy to switch back or switch between the district and then schools within the district. And then actually, if you go back to school list, you can go back to the district if, for example, you just wanted to check on one particular school and see if that matched up with what you saw in the district values. All right, now we'll move on all the way to the end to the IDEA page. This page is available to districts. And one thing to note is that you might not see every one of these buttons for each selection that you make. That's just because some of these are not relevant to every single school or district. All right, now that we are in the IDEA page, we can read a little bit more about what this page tells us. And we can also see a little couple sentences here about what we can do here or what we should do here. So we can expand an indicator from the left side to indicator details. And we can also see that there's a suggestion that we must close an indicator before we open up a different one. So if you don't want to listen to me and you don't want to listen to these videos, you can just read the little text boxes at the top and they'll tell you pretty similar things. So we might start with looking at indicator 1, which is graduation rate and how that compares across the district and the state. And then we might realize we want to look at education environment for indicator 5. We can click on indicator 5 and open that up right away. But what we would suggest is just making sure that you close the old indicator that you didn't want to see anymore. Okay, so now let's open up indicator 5. And That whole closing and reopening thing wouldn't be a problem unless we actually had chosen indicator 5 first. And then let's say we wanted to look at indicator 2. You can see that you cannot see indicator 2 because that's actually behind indicator 5. So there is a little bit of layering, just like we saw in the student achievement page. So it's just a safe bet to close what you're done with and then open the new thing that you'd like to take a look at. Okay, so let's open up indicator 5, school age placement. And in some of these indicators in the IDEA page, you'll have a little I button that you can click on. This is kind of similar to what you'd see in iExplore. And what you get to see is a little bit more information about each of these indicators. Okay, and then you'll have to just close it out, close the menu once you're done with it. All right, maybe we're done with the IDEA page now, and we realize that we want to do a little bit of a comparison between the Concord district and other districts that we have in mind. So we can click on this Compare Entities button that's always available to us, and we'll be sent to a page where we can do exactly what the button says. We can compare entities across all the different relevant indicators that we have chosen, that we've chosen to show. So for selection 1, we'll have to go back, and if we wanted to keep that Concord selection, we can just scroll down here and select Concord District. And maybe we want to compare that to Amherst. And how about Bedford? Okay. We can compare districts to districts. We can compare districts to schools. We can really just choose any 3 entities we have in mind. And in fact, we don't even have to choose the same entity that we've been looking at all this time. Okay. The important thing to note is that these selections up here will really drive your whole analysis and all the data that you see down below that. All right. Finally, when you're done with the entity that you've chosen, you're done with the comparison, you can always go back and hit back to search, and you can choose any other entity, any other school, any other district you're interested in, and you can really restart the whole process. All right, I think that just about covers it. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about the newly revamped iReport, and I hope you'll like to use it in the future.